Milan Sharma is also getting us more details as far as this latest mishap is concerned. Milan, what more can you tell us about any injuries so far? What does it look like?
Sneha, the preliminary details that we have received is that it happened on a private track that is laid inside the ACC cement plant near Bargarh area. Because this is a goods train, there are private tracks that are laid down by companies for the delivery and movement of their own goods. And in this case, the goods train, as we know, was carrying limestone, has derailed near Shalimar-Chennai in Bargarh district, which is in the eastern coastal railway region. This is not in the same region as Balasore. That is the southeast region. And this one happens to be in the east coast. This is a separate zone altogether, is all we know right now. And the reason being given at the moment by the East Coast CPRO, the chief PRO, as I'm speaking, is this particular rail track is not owned by the Indian Railways, and it's a private siding and a completely private operation. So when a track is laid for a private operation, the maintenance of the track is the responsibility of the company that is transporting the goods and services from one place to another. So the railways, they're clearly telling us that the track is not owned by the Indian Railways. It's a private track, and a private siding means that the entire area has been developed by the company, and its maintenance and tracking is completely the responsibility of that very company. However, we know that there have been no casualties reported at the moment there, Sneha.
Okay, that's in fact, at least from what Milan is telling us, it does appear that there are no casualties, and that at least is good news. But Milan, what's terrible news is that this is giving an idea or reflecting the safety system, which perhaps is clearly not in place, or else these derailments wouldn't become so frequent, isn't it? Just 3 days after that horrible accident in Balasore, we have this now.
Well, absolutely, Sneha, because the reason that we are discussing this today is the horrific incident in Balasore, wherein more than 2 trains collided. The goods train also came on came in between all this, and then there was a massive tragedy that has killed around 288 people, injured 1,000 people, and therefore, it is being said right now from the officials of the railways that this particular track maintenance is also the responsibility of the company that builds the track, and our eyes are all open on any sort of derailment now from on in future. There have been past derailments in private siding tracks as well, but any such incident right now just brings us back to the entire tragedy of Balasore, which is completely fresh in the memory of everyone. And now, in fact, an investigation has also been, called for. A CBI investigation has also been recommended for. But the final details of this, Sneha, coming forward now, this is not a mainline operation. The mainline operations, which means the main lines up and down the entire passenger traffic line, is not affected. It's a narrow gauge sliding, which means it was only meant for that particular goods train that is being, transported by its company. And the private siding maintenance operations is not under the Indian Railways. Let's make that very clear for our viewers as well.
Fair enough, and Milan is pointing that out, and that is really important, that this hasn't got to do with the Indian Railways. Undoubtedly, it's worrying. It's a derailment. At the end of the day, it is an accident where wagons have been derailed, but this has not got to do with the Indian Railways. Milan, in fact, who tracks the Railway Ministry for us, has more details on how the private gauge lines function. Milan, for many who wouldn't know, give us an idea about how the system really is.
Sneha, in simple terms, because the railways has a lot of deep entrenched technicalities, this is actually a limestone goods train that has been running on a narrow gauge, not the main track line, but a narrow gauge created for its specific purpose of transport. This is run by a private company, and because this is run by the private company, called we're getting a private narrow gauge lane line between Dungri limestone mines and cement plant of ACC Bargarh. So ACC Bargarh is responsible for running this rail line. The wagons and loco are all private. So wagons, the coaches and the loco train is entirely a private operational train. It is not connected with the Indian Railway only because this train is specifically meant to transport goods and services for the private company. So if there is a derailment, if there is an accident on the track, it is a sole responsibility of this particular private company only because they are responsible for its track maintenance, signaling, electronic systems, everything is their own responsibility.
Yes.
And that is why it is separate from the passenger train derailments that happen, which have a massive impact because there are common men like you and I traveling in those trains.
Well, absolutely, which also means, Milan, like from what you're telling us, is that no other service is going to be disrupted. This was a private line and no passenger train movement or nothing else is expected to be disrupted because of this derailment.
Yes, Neha, you're absolutely right. From the details that we are getting right now, since this is a private narrow gauge line operation, the main lines on the eastern coast near Bargarh in Medanpalli have not been affected by this particular incident at all.
All right, no passenger train movement or no movement of the Indian Railways has been affected. This was a private gauge line, is what Milan is telling us, operated by a private company that is in fact responsible for the transfer of goods. In this case, limestone. 5 bogies or wagons rather have been derailed, but no casualties and no injuries is what we hear.